I call this meeting to order at 4:33 p.m. on Wednesday, May 4th, 2022.
I'll go ahead and take a roll. When you hear your name, please say present. Chair Pacheco,
Present.
Vice Chair Colombo, Commissioner Colombo, Commissioner Gonzalez,
Present.
Commissioner Junis, Commissioner Rupert,
Present.
Commissioner Lashansky,
Present.
and Commissioner Sue.
Present.
Let the record show 5 commissioners are present.
Commissioner Rupert, would you be willing to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. If everyone could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, hand over your heart. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for agenda item 4A, we're going to have Jamie Gonzalez and Barbara Larson present.
Thank you for having us. And the students will be presenting what they've been working on regarding zero waste this whole year, since you guys were interested in having speakers about zero waste. I'm gonna have Barbara introduce the SDA speakers, and I will introduce the OCREST speakers.
Thank you. So we have Charlotte, Brandon, Lauren, and Luke, and they're going to present to slides that we have. So Lauren, you are up.
Do I use the clicker or? Should I tell you when to go to the next slide?
Just let me know.
Okay. So, next slide. So, we knew that we had to take initiative when one of our club members, Naya, couldn't find a place to recycle her item. Next slide. We divided the campus into 3 zones where we thought students might exhibit different behaviors. We began the waste audit process by mapping out the trash cans on campus. We tagged each bag with an ID number. We wanted to also see which cans were used the most and the least. The data was collected on a typical Tuesday. Next, we conducted the waste audit. We sorted the 60 bags in total into the categories landfill, recycling, compostable, other food, and recyclable. Significant amounts of recoverable food were found in the landfill bags. The photograph on the left is the landfill trash bags we audited, and on the right is the recyclable materials found in those bags. And for reference for the audio listeners, the recyclables we found in comparison to Charlotte make her look very, very small.
Next slide, please. So we analyzed the data and it revealed the following, such as major hotspots and where food was thrown away, what types of food were thrown away. Next slide. And using this, we analyzed from there what types of interventions could particularly take place, such as where recycling cans were needed, where the most traction took place. Next slide. And so our findings were actually really shocking. What shocked me the most was that a little bit under half of it could actually been diverted. So this is stuff that was thrown into the landfill that could have been recycled, that could have been repurposed. And there was a large amount of food items that were prepackaged, unopened, and untouched. And this is all stuff that we're getting from the cafeteria, and that's getting thrown away. And this was a large percentage of that. Next slide. And so the weight of one school year's worth of trash at SDA is equal to about 60,000 pounds. And of that, 46% of that is divertible. So we have easily the power to divert 28,800 pounds of trash with enough solutions and interventions. But that hasn't been happening, even though it easily could.
So the best way to stop waste is to reduce it at the source. So the school has a serve policy where you have to take at least a fruit or a juice with your meal, and a lot of times students end up just throwing this away after they take it. So the way to reduce this at the source is recovery. Ideally, we could have a share table or recovery bins. The recovery bins wouldn't be for the school, but they could be donated other places. I'll touch on that more a little later. But even if food can't be recovered, there are a lot of alternatives. So one alternative is the EDCO anaerobic digester, which is where food is taken there. It can be processed into methane gas and used to fuel their trucks. So it's a great alternative for food instead of ending up in a landfill. And then another is compost. It's something the Garden Club has experimented with in the past, but it's not something we fully implemented yet. We do plan on working towards it in the future. Next slide, please. So the most important suggestion is the 1-to-1 trash can ratio. It's the idea that for every one landfill, there should be at least one recyclable can as well. That way there's no excuse for a student not to have like an opportunity to throw away their trash and recycle. Because that's where this all started, is one of our members was looking to throw away something to recycle. There wasn't one to be found, so this should hopefully eliminate that solution. And then a problem we found with this is that obviously janitorial has a lot of work on their hands, so the proposed solution to that is to have about 10 EDCO grade recycling cans, like the ones you'd find in your side yard to throw away your trash in your bags. These could be latched on to the back of the carts that they drive around school. It's a hitching system. And the idea would be that they can go around and drive these and collect the recycle from the trash cans. They put it all in these, and then they can just take it to the drop-off point to be shipped to EDCO or wherever it needs to be shipped to. Another idea is the food recovery station. These would be in or around the mosaic, and this is not for SDA, but the idea around these is that any food that is not good enough to be like recycled at the school, but is still almost untouched or unopened, that is like edible, it could be donated to the local food bank, which is about 2 blocks away from the school. It's called St. Andrew's Food Pantry. And every Thursday, about 200 hungry families end up going there for food. So it's a great opportunity to give back to the community. Next slide, please. And this is what we've done so far. So far, SDUHSD schools have implemented organics waste bins. They're being taken to EDCO to be put into the anaerobic digester like before to make the methane gas. And SDA is ready to start converting the 1-to-1 process. We have a bunch of large recycling stickers that are ready to be placed on a lot of the landfill, because our idea is we have about 101 landfill baskets around the school. The idea is to convert about half of them, 50 or so, to these recycling bins and then create the 1-to-1 stations. So these stickers are easy to be placed on, and we just haven't had time to do it yet. And that's because, next slide. This is just a little touch on what the Garden Club's been doing recently. Some of you probably know this is an area to the right of the Mosaic Cafe. It's to the left of our garden, and it's a decent-sized area. Used to just be cement. What we've done recently is take out all the cement, and we've started building this wall. The goal in the end is to eventually expand the garden back and then create a nice shaded area with trees and plants for students to hang out and eat lunch around the Mosaic. This is almost a little bit of a time-sensitive project because it's such a large construction area, so it's taken up the Garden Club's attention for a little bit, but we do plan on continuing this recycling program as much as we can once this is done.
All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about zero waste and our project here. Next slide. So during the zero waste event, or the taste event, we wanted to have zero waste throughout the entire event, and I'll show the results at the end, but here's the go-through that we went through. On the top right, we have 2 of our volunteers. We went around bussing the tables and making sure that we had a waste station in the back, which we sorted out individually as volunteers instead of having the actual participants in the event sort out different waste. And so we, before the event, we did get compostable plates and reusable silverware and glasses. Those are the 3 things on the bottom. Next slide. So that is our sorting station in the back. I'm in the middle, in the very very fancy shirt. We have our 4 stations, as you can see behind me. So as the busing tables moved in, we just had different places where we sort each of the 4 materials. And on the next slide, those are the results. As you can see, the landfill waste is the smallest of the 3, which is a huge achievement because normally everything would end up in landfill waste, and instead it was really just little soy sauce packets that came. Very tough to pick out, but it ended up working great in the end. Oh. And yeah. So we had a suggestion about the zero waste event. I know we do, the city of Encinitas has venues, and it would be great if we could try and do something like what we did at the Taste event, some sort of zero waste project that could really help reduce waste at these large events that often produce a lot of waste all at once.
Great, thank you so much. It's always nice to hear what these students are doing. Barbara and I work for BCK programs, and what we do is work with schools and school districts on waste diversion, on exactly what you've seen here, and different ways to make schools more zero waste and overall environmental education. So I've been really just privileged, I guess, to work with Sophia and Ruby here from Oakcrest throughout the year with the ASB class and the environmental club. So here they are.
This is Oakcrest's Actions Towards Sustainability. I'm Sophia Holtzum, the creator and president of Environmental Club.
And I'm Ruby Kochik, the vice president of the Environmental Club. Next slide. Back in December of 2021, students at Oakcrest did a waste audit of all the trash and recycling on campus. We did this because in the beginning of the year, Environmental Club thought about the goal we would work on for the rest of the year, to reduce waste on campus. Being students, we noticed an increasing amount of trash and litter on campus. So we took an audit of all our waste. What we found was that nearly 56% of waste was food, and around 47% of that was recoverable. Most of the food was milk, apple juice, and craisins. So with all this waste, we came to the conclusion that we needed to create more environmentally friendly opportunities at Oakcrest.
Next slide. So as the statistics show, 56% of waste on campus was food, and 43% of that was recoverable food. We thought about how we could prevent food being wasted, and the idea Environmental Club came up with was the share table. Students can put unopened and untouched food they don't want and take food that they do want. Food that doesn't get eaten at the end of the day gets recycled back into the cafeteria, and you can see this in the top right corner. This has significantly decreased litter on campus and food going into the landfill, which is not only more environmentally friendly, but also better for the custodial staff on campus. Next slide. After taking a survey of all the trash and recycling bins on campus, we noticed we had very few recycling bins, and there was mostly a 1-to-0 ratio for landfill to recycling. Most of the recycling bins were in odd places like the field or in areas we cannot access at lunch. The ones that were in accessible places were on the opposite of the lunch area, away from the cafeteria where most students eat. This is extremely inconvenient, and I myself have not recycled just because the landfill was right there. So after taking this into consideration, we matched every landfill with a recycling bin, and this has decreased recyclables contaminating the landfill and therefore made our campus a more sustainable place. Next slide. 32% of waste on campus is meant to be in the organics recycling. The opened or contaminated food students does not want goes into the green bins. The green bins allows food to be properly composted compared to going into the landfill or contaminating the recycling bin. This is the newest addition to our school, and we are the first school in the district to do it. ASB and Environmental Club created a video we showed to educate students on how to use the green recycling bin and hopefully encourage more students to use it, which you can see on the next slide.
Okay, next slide. At Oak Crest, we have Kona Ice every early out day to help raise money for ASB. With the amount of students buying shaved ice and only using plastic spoons, it creates a lot of unnecessary waste. So we talked to the ASB teacher, Mr. Green, and now we're using compostable spoons instead of plastic. This is saving thousands of plastic spoons from just going into the landfill or becoming litter. Next slide. So what can you do to make Encinitas events more sustainable? Green bins at events are a great way to collect food waste and create less methane emissions. A 1-to-1 recycling to trash ratio also makes it easier to dispose of waste correctly. But taking it a step further by creating a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio with the addition of green bins would be amazing. Lastly, compostable utensils and reusable water bottles are a great way to limit single-use plastics. Oh, next slide, and click on the link.
Griselda could not make it today, so this is a video that she created to explain her slides.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we linked it, but it must have not updated when we linked it. Yeah, thank you.
TerraCycle and Recycling Markers by Griselda Matias Ramirez. TerraCycle. TerraCycle is a process of separating materials such as plastic, processing it, and transforming it into new products. This process starts once materials are gathered and sent to their TerraCycle. The items are washed and their R&D team separates them. The R&D team are skilled scientists who analyze how these materials should be processed. Plastic materials are then shredded, melted, and turned into tiny pellets. Normally, plastic would be dumped to the landfill, but TerraCycle transforms them into new products. Many writing utensils use plastic, such as markers. Every year, 1.6 billion markers are thrown away. Oak Crest Middle School has contributed to this waste, but now the Environmental Club started a program. This program sends the markers to TerraCycle. Since the beginning of our program, we recycled over 27 pounds of writing utensils. Those 27 pounds of writing utensils could have been in the landfill. However, by recycling them, we give them a new life.
Okay, next slide when you get back to it. Okay, thank you for taking the time to consider our ideas.
Have a great night.
Commissioners, do you all have any questions for any of the presenters today? Yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner Rupert, I just wanted to say thank you guys for all taking on these initiatives. I love hearing, especially that these are happening at our school sites in San Diego, Encinitas, because it needs to be taken care of, especially it's cool that it's being ran by youth. So you guys are amazing. I think one way that I would love to see some of these projects continue going in the future is making sure that you have people in these clubs and in these kind of coalitions to take it on in the next years, because I know some of us here only have like either a year left or you're going to be going to high school. I think making sure that there's kind of that structure for the future would be great, because we want to see more presentations like this at the city in the future, because it helps with spreading the word and educating everyone. And then one thing for the high schoolers here and for the middle schoolers, if you can kind of take what the work you have done and put it into almost like a Google Doc with the procedures and how you at least started some of the work, and you end up sharing that with either your ASB officers or your principals, I think that would be a great way to see something like what we have now at SDA, at LCC, and at Torrey Pines, and what we have at Oak Crest, at the other Degano, and so on and so forth. So I think taking the work that you guys have done and helping people start that at other school sites is an amazing next step that I would absolutely love. And thank you for all of your advice about what we can do better as a city as well at our events.
Commissioner Gonzalez, I just had a quick question kind of going off of that for either school. Is there anything being done to try to largen this into other schools in the district or out of the district?
Anybody who wants to speak on that can feel free to go up to the podium. If you wouldn't mind stepping up, and it gets recorded if you jump on the microphone.
So you're asking if the things that the kids are working on could be spread to more schools in the school district? And the answer is yes. But first I'll give a big shout out to the city of Encinitas, who helps fund all of this stuff and makes it happen for at least the schools that fall within the Encinitas boundaries. But through the work we're doing with the city of Encinitas at the Encinitas schools, we've gotten to know the administration at San Diego Union High School District. And because they like what they're seeing at the Encinitas schools, most likely there'll be a rippling effect to all the other high schools. And so the work that these guys are doing within Encinitas hopefully will pay forward to all the other schools. So the answer to your question is yes.
With the food share table at Oakcrest, I've communicated with the principal and assistant principal at Earl Warren Middle School who are interested in starting it, and we wrote down the procedures that we went through because you have to work with the nutrition service and the custodial staff. It wasn't just putting the table up. So we wrote down all the procedures, and now the principal at Earl Warren is now going to La Costa Canyon, so there's that whole ripple effect as well, that if they started, and I don't know if they started Earl Warren, we communicated with them about 4 months ago, but it'd be pretty rad if they did, because then perhaps then he will take that to La Costa Canyon too. So that would be another way.
Earl Warren, the gateway to all.
This is Recreation Services Manager Staten. I just wanted to commend all of you that have worked on this project. The research that you've done and the things that you've implemented were thoroughly thought out, from how the janitors could move things to how we could really have the students utilize this. So just congratulations. This is one of the most outstanding presentations I've seen, especially on this topic here at Commission and elsewhere. I did want to also thank you for the recommendations that you gave to the city for how the events could be made more green here in the city. I do want to put you at ease a bit, because some of the things that you've recommended, we actually do on a daily basis here as employees. Like, we have a compostable bin that we put our food scraps into, and we don't have plastic silverware. You have to bring your own silverware and wash it, or there's some available for you. We have recycling. And then at our events, we do have a 1-to-1 ratio generally of the trash and the recyclables, and they will be in the future implementing the food scraps. So just a lot of your recommendations are things that the city has moved towards, or and maybe partially because of the people you've gotten to know here, but I'm sure you know that Encinitas takes being green super seriously, and we just appreciate that it's also starting in the middle school and high schools to be something that's seriously considered and implemented. So thank you so much.
Last question from Commissioner Rupert. For the SDA students here, have you guys considered writing or kind of creating almost like a list of requests to Mr. Camacho about the one thing that stood out in your presentation to me was the fact that students have to take juice or drinks when they don't necessarily either need it or want it. And I think that's something that, at the administrative level, they wouldn't know about. And I think that's something important to bring up. So that's super important. And then I think even writing something as like how we can improve, like, example, our dances. We use plastic cups at all of them to give you guys water and snacks. But we have never had an alternative or someone in our class talk about how we could turn that into more of a green event, because we do not use recyclables at our ASB events. So, question and advice for the future.
And this is Staff Liaison Anderson. I'll echo what Manager Staten was mentioning. I thought it was an incredibly impressive presentation. You were all very well spoken, and quite frankly, some of the best analytics I've seen come in front of our commission. You showing us your whole process, I think, is incredibly important. And now it sounds like that's passing on to other schools, and it's really encouraging to see students like yourselves at such a young age creating a very measurable difference in your community. So we really appreciate you coming to the commission today, and certainly we thank instructors Jamie Gonzalez and Barbara Larson for bringing your groups here today. So do we have anything else from the commissioners? Anybody else have any other questions that they would like to ask?
Well, this is more just advice, I think, or just, something I want to say. I go to La Costa Canyon, and so we do have a big time trash problem. We talk about it with administration a lot, especially because I'm an ASB there. And even though it's located in Carlsbad, a lot of my friends are from Encinitas. And I think one of the ways that we could probably get this on a bigger level is you could get NHS into it and offer like volunteer hours to go through the food or to like clean up, and then that way it makes people, I didn't even know half of this stuff before you guys presented it. Again, it's an amazing presentation. But then when people realize what's going on in their own area, they'll start taking care of it at school, and then it'll transfer over into their home life and then around. And I think there is that ripple effect that you guys were talking about. And I'm also the school board representative for LCC. And I think it'd be a great idea to bring it up to our district board about the rule that we have to take food even if we don't want it, because one, that's a cost for them. And SDA is the biggest high school in our area. So, I mean, obviously if they can cut costs where they need to, I think they would enjoy that. But definitely bring it up to them and get other clubs and ASBs involved, because now I want to bring it to LCC, even though we're not in the Encinitas area.
This is Recreation Manager Staten. Just want to put out there that part of the reason that the students may have to take the food that they're not interested in is due to county health requirements. So it might be a little bit bigger of an obstacle than you're looking to do, but certainly always important to ask the questions so that you can get the answers or elicit change if it's possible. So thank you.
So yeah, as she was saying, because it's a federally funded program, students do have to offer it, so they get their nutrition needs filled. But I guess what I would say to here to everyone in this room is that, and there's a couple of people on ASB at the high schools, and I feel like Oakcrest has done a great job of doing this, is that they do have an environmental committee on the ASB, right? Like, there are climate action plans. This city has a climate action plan. The state has climate action plans. And so if every ASB and those bodies of leadership at schools, especially student-driven ones, have that voice for their campus, that goes a long way, right? Because in all your planning events and just that that voice to try to be as sustainable as possible. So I would encourage if you guys are involved in ASB to keep that going, because I'm super impressed at Oakcrest's progress, and it's created a huge ripple effect at their school. So thanks.
Do we have any oral presentations?
There are none.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Now we'll move on to the approval minute.
Yep. I'll go ahead and say your name, and you can vote on approving the March 2nd, 2022 Youth Commission regular meeting minutes. Chair Pacheco?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Rupert?
Yes.
Commissioner Lashinsky,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sue.
Yes.
Okay, the minutes are approved with 5 yeses and 3 absent.
Okay, so now we're gonna go to our work plan. So today we discussed work plan item number 3, the zero waste and food recycling program. I know it was really eye-opening for me. Yeah. As well as civic engagement.
Yeah, Commissioner Rupert's update on our civic engagement series. Commissioner Sue and I went to the Encinitas Library last weekend, and we got a tour of the place with our youth librarian, and we were able to learn about a lot of amazing resources, as well as the back ends about how the city sorts books and all the resources that we provide, such as study rooms and places for clubs to meet. Commissioner Sue and I was able to take notes and record, and now we are typing up a script based off of that information, so that hopefully next commissioner groups, we get to record a educational video to send out to youth in Encinitas in San Diego about our Encinitas Library.
Chair Pacheco, for intergenerational programming, we talked about making it a how-to video on how to register through the website. And so something I've been working on how to, I looked at the website, I wrote out steps, and I started creating a screencastify, and then I'll edit it and put a voiceover on teaching you how to do it, as well as create a PowerPoint so that people can go through it at their own pace if they need to. I should have that done in about a week. Just let me get through my last 2 AP tests.
Commissioner Gonzalez for e-bike education. Last week we had CASP testing for the juniors, and so all of the other grades were sent into different classrooms, and we did a different thing each day. And one of those days was a video and speaker on e-bike safety and different ways that students can prevent accidents, and just other informational items about e-bikes in general.
So Commissioner Rupert for identifying guest speakers for the future of Youth Commission meetings. Our last time we met, we discussed kind of reaching out to a lot of local people in our community, from people who work in business to engineering. One thing that was super fun and successful is last commissioner meeting, we had Inspire to Vote come and share to our youth commission about how to get youth active in voting. And I was able to reach out to them afterwards and connect them with one of the students at SGA who was interested in spearheading voter registration on our campus. And we were able to get over 500 students registered to vote who are seniors and juniors at our school.
Commissioner Lashinsky, for number 6, youth cybersecurity, we have no updates.
Oh wait, that's not me.
For the virtual park tours, we have a group chat going, and we're deciding which ones we want to do and what dates are going to work in order to make that happen. And hopefully we'll be able to take pictures or start a script so that next year's Youth Commission can see that plan to fruition.
There is no updates for the virtual holiday contest besides we finalized our Google form --SurveyMonkey for what would be sent out to the community as a mock trial.
Commissioner Sue, there's no updates for the Youth Commission mission statement.
And now we'll hear from Recreation Service Manager Staten.
This is Recreation Services Manager Staten with some city updates. We have the Recreation Services Guide completed. It is actually with the printer. It will be going into the mail and should be getting to homes as early as May 12th, with registration beginning on May 16th. We had a very successful Arbor Day last weekend at Cottonwood Creek. We planted 50 trees and had quite a few community members come out to celebrate Earth Day, or Arbor Day, excuse me. We have on May 14th, so next week, Saturday, at Glen Park, we're showing the movie Encanto. We'll also be having a little post-Mother's Day craft opportunity prior to the movie. The movie will begin around 7:15 or dusk, as soon as it's light dependent, obviously, for the movie. On that same night, we also have art night here in the city. So if you're interested in art, that's something you might want to mark your calendar for. And I believe currently that concludes the city updates.
Do any commission members want to present anything? I think we kind of went over that already. Are there any future agenda items that commission members would like to add? All right, Commissioner Roundtable reports. I'll begin and then we'll just go down the line. So right now at La Costa Canyon, we all have AP tests. I think everybody in the district and everybody in the country has AP tests right now. For a lot of students, this is their first time doing them in person and not on a computer, which is definitely very weird as a senior in high school, doing my first AP test the way it's supposed to be done. We have prom coming up, as well as we had our decision day for colleges. And it was really nice to see where everyone is going. And yeah, that's kind of it.
Commissioner Gonzalez, pretty much the same at SDA. We have AP tests going on, prom is coming up. And last week, like I said, we had CASP testing, and we had a bunch of different informational items for each day that we got. One was about kind of a topic on racism and homophobia. We also had a job and career assembly, and then the e-bike safety.
Commissioner Lashensky, same thing. Prom for PRS just finished last week, and everyone's doing their AP tests, yeah.
Commissioner Rupert, we, similar, I also go to San Diego Academy. Prom is coming up, and our theme is the Met Gala, and that's going to be at Petco Park. As stated before, we have had several voter registration drives now current and present at SDA from our junior Javas and our senior Javas. We also, over the weekend, were able to host free prom attire at one of the local spaces, which was open to all students in San Diego Unified School District who had financial barriers for prom season. And we had a lot of students from throughout the district come to that, and it was great to help out with. Some of our clubs also celebrated AAPI Month, which stands for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which was great. And all of our books in our libraries are focusing on Asian American authors. We also celebrated the end of Eid for our Muslim students at San Diego Academy.
Commissioner Sue, I think last month, at the beginning of the month, I went to a Las Vegas regional for my brother's robotics team, and I saw that SDA, their team Paradox, was attending that regional, and so I just thought it was great that there was people from Encinitas going all the way to Las Vegas, and that was really cool, and they did a really great job.
I adjourned this meeting at 5:13 on Wednesday, May 4th.